Under a dark, stormy sky filled with flying dragons, a massive, jagged tower rises from a landscape of sharp rocks and flowing lava. This is the domain of the enemy. A narration box sets the scene. Vermouth, the hero, and his 4 companions went to see Magic Count Helmut to subdue the Demon King. 5 legendary warriors charge across a stone bridge, weapons drawn and ready for battle. They are united and determined. The story continues. They killed 3 of the 5 Demon Kings, and now only 2 remain. The group plunges into a chaotic battle. They are immediately surrounded by a swarm of nightmares, massive red dragons, and an army of horned demons with glowing eyes. The monsters attack from every direction, trying to overwhelm the heroes. Leading the charge is the white-haired hero Vermouth. With intense focus, he swings his glowing blue sword. In a blur of speed, he slashes through the dark monsters, cutting them down instantly. A title card introduces him as the Great Vermouth. Behind him, the purple-haired mage Senya rushes forward. She grips her magical staff, her expression full of excitement. "I can use my magic," she shouts, "against these numbers." She unleashes a powerful blast of energy, causing a massive explosion that sends debris and enemies flying. She is introduced as the Wise Senya. Amidst the smoke, the blonde priestess Anise stands calmly. She clasps her hands, glowing with golden light. "Everyone, I will give you all a blessing," she announces. Suddenly, a blue demon screeches, "Keek!" and lunges at her. In a shocking twist, she doesn't use magic, but brutally smashes the demon with a heavy mace, splattering blood across the floor. She is the faithful Anise. Finally, the large, muscular warrior roars a battle cry. "Woo!" He swings a gigantic battle axe with incredible force. The impact decimates a circle of enemies, sending blood raining down upon him as he clears a path for his team. The massive warrior with the wild grin and scarred face is introduced as the brave Moron. Nearby, a scarred warrior with red hair, Hamel, sprints desperately across the battlefield. He yells at the white-haired hero ahead of him, "Vermouth, that bastard! Stop going ahead of me!" Desperate not to be left behind, Hamel charges into the enemy lines, screaming for the monsters to move. Hamel unleashes a flurry of attacks, cutting down enemies in a flash of blue light. Despite his skill, history remembers him unkindly. The text introduces him as the foolish Hamel. As he catches his breath, a narration reveals the bitter truth. Hamel was always jealous of Vermouth. He claimed they were rivals, but he was the only one who thought so. While the others fought with elegance, Hamel often struggled just to keep pace, repeatedly ending up battered and humiliated. Back in the present battle, Hamel wipes his mouth, thinking the area is clear. Suddenly, his eyes widen in terror. He screams, "Vermouth!" and throws himself in front of the hero. A massive spike from a hidden demon pierces Hamel's chest, saving Vermouth, but sealing Hamel's fate. Vermouth catches his falling comrade, his eyes wide with shock as blood spurts from the wound. The demon, a towering horned beast, prepares another strike, but Vermouth explodes with rage. With blinding speed, he slices the monster into pieces, disintegrating it in a burst of light. The rest of the party, Anise, Senya, and Moron, rush to Hamel's side, horror on their faces. Vermouth looks down at his dying friend. "You didn't need to die like this," he says softly. Blood dripping from his mouth, Hamel manages a weak smile. This much is an honorable death. With his last ounce of strength, he grabs Vermouth's hand. "Vermouth, you must defeat the Demon King." Tears streaming down his face, Vermouth grips Hamel's hand tight. "I swear on the hero's name, I will massacre all of the Demon Kings." Hamel's vision begins to fade. He asks Anise to pray for him and tells Moron he is the bravest warrior ever. He looks at the weeping Senya and begins to confess, "To be honest, I like—" But before he can finish his sentimental final words, the scene shatters. "I never liked you!" A young boy stomps furiously on a children's history book. "I didn't say that!" he screams. This is the reincarnated Hamel, now a young boy with messy gray hair. He's trembling with rage at the storybook's inaccuracy. Which bastard wrote this children's book? If the author wasn't anonymous, I'd go beat the shit out of them right now. He picks up the book, disgusted. Why is everyone else called the great, the wise, the faithful, and the brave, while I'm called the foolish? Hamel the foolish? Ha! He throws the book across the room, furious that his old companions didn't protect his honor after he died. Calming down, he realizes the truth. Well, it's not like they'd have ever thought the dead Hamel would reincarnate with the memories of his past life. He touches his face, reflecting on his death 300 years ago. He walks toward a large, golden-framed portrait of Vermouth hanging on the wall. The irony is overwhelming. I reincarnated as one of Vermouth, the hero's descendants. The boy stands resolute, introduced now as Eugene Lionheart, 13 years old.
Vermouth, in my past life, had various concubines other than his first wife. Eugene sits shirtless in a rustic room, wrapping bandages around his muscular arms and legs. He ponders the past. He didn't used to be the type to chase after women. Did he change his mind after getting old? I understand, since he's human too, though. A diagram of a family tree appears, glowing with blue and pink figures. It separates the lineage into a direct line and a branch. The only families that are considered the direct line of descendants are the children of the first wife. Even with the same last name, Lionheart, Eugene's family is considered an indirect branch, and families within the branch are forbidden from training their mana and using real swords before the blood succession ritual. Eugene stands before a weapon rack, reaching for a simple wooden training sword. In the training yard, Eugene unleashes a flurry of strikes. He moves with blinding speed, his wooden sword leaving trails of purple energy as it smashes into a training dummy. The force of the blow is so immense that the wooden blade shatters upon impact, sending splinters flying. Eugene stands amidst the debris, his back to his father. His father, a burly man with a gray beard, stares in shock and fear. "You've broken it again?" Eugene turns his head slightly, his expression innocent. "Father?" The father watches Eugene grip the remains of the sword handle, his muscles rippling with tension. How is that the body of a 13-year-old? To be honest, I think I will lose if I were to fight him hand on hand. The father looks at his son, whose eyes are glowing with an intense golden light. A dark aura seems to surround the boy. "Eugene, he is my son, but sometimes I am afraid of him. He does not speak or act like a child. There is no innocence to be found in those scary eyes. Even though he lost his mother early in his childhood, he has never missed his dead mother once." Eugene kicks the broken stump of the training dummy in frustration. The town's blacksmith's skill is absolute trash. He holds up the splintered hilt, his eyes wide with intensity. Selling a piece of trash like this for money? He should be whipped as punishment. "But father, you are too generous." The father coughs nervously, trying to diffuse the tension. I will give him a warning." Later, the sun shines brightly over the Lionheart estate. On that note, the blood succession ritual is tomorrow. Eugene stares ahead, his expression bored. Blood succession ritual, a shitty Lionheart tradition held every 10 years. An image appears of a large group of children gathering under a massive banner bearing a lion's crest. All children from ages 10 to 15 from both direct lineage and branch gather at the head family's home for the blood succession ritual, and they all compete to see who is worthy of the last name Lionheart. A montage shows children fighting fiercely with swords, bows, and hammers. But unlike the branch families, the direct lineage are allowed to use real weapons and train their mana. In conclusion, they're just making sure that the branch families are unable to do better than the direct lineage. The father stands alone in the yard, looking down at the destroyed training equipment. Eugene has great enough talents that I cannot imagine him to be my son. If he had been born into the head family, no. Only if he took after me and wasn't talented, he wouldn't have to feel the discrepancy between reality and his talents. Eugene notices his father's distress. "Father, why do you look that way?" Father wipes his eyes quickly.
No, it's nothing. Eugene looks at him skeptically. No, my ass. He's definitely berating himself right now that he's not a good father.
The father grips Eugene's shoulders tightly. Eugene, never compete with the children of the head family. However talented you may be, you won't be a match to the main family kids that learned with real swords and trained mana. Eugene smiles brightly, grabbing his father's hand reassuringly. You got it. Eugene turns away, his face instantly shifting to a dark, arrogant smirk. As if, it's just a skills competition with a bunch of 10-year-olds. Too tedious. It makes me sigh. Eugene walks back toward a fresh training dummy. In this blood succession ritual, there are 3 from the head family and 6 from the branch families. Silhouettes of the competition appear: a lone boy, a pair of twins, and a hulking figure. One of the 3 from the head family is the son of the first wife, and the other 2 are a concubine's twins. Eugene prepares for a strike, and aside from the 2 from pretty high authority branch families, the rest are just losers. He swings his sword with devastating power. Purple energy explodes outward, obliterating the dummy completely. Let's see just how good the descendants of Vermouth the Great are. A carriage departs from the estate, carrying Eugene toward the main family's mansion and the challenges that await. Eugene leans against the carriage window, his chin resting on his hand as the landscape rolls by. His mind drifts back to a time long ago. In his past life as Hamel, he truly believed he was a genius. Flashbacks reveal a young red-headed Hamel standing triumphantly over a pile of beaten street thugs, wielding a wooden sword with a confident grin. He had never found it difficult to learn new things and always improved faster than anyone around him. But that confidence was shattered when he met him. In a memory deep within a forest, a frustrated Hamel screams at a calm, silver-haired warrior. Hamel demands to know what the man just said. The warrior, Vermouth, simply replies that it is a shame, claiming Hamel could be stronger if he just tried a little harder. Enraged, Hamel shouts back that he is swinging his sword to the absolute best of his abilities. He realizes then that he isn't the true genius. He warns Vermouth not to judge others by his own impossible standards. The face of the true genius fills Eugene's mind. Vermouth the Great. A man skilled with both magic and the sword, nicknamed the God of War and Master of All. He was a duke in the Kiel Empire before retiring, praised as a hero until his dying breath. Eugene sits in the carriage, his expression darkening as he thinks about the rest of his old party. He recalls Senya the Wise, the little wench who became the youngest mage tower master in the history of the Mage Kingdom, Aroth. Then there was Anise the Faithful, a woman Eugene considers to have rotten insides, yet she is revered as a saintess in the Holy Empire, Eurus, complete with scriptures of her teachings. Finally, there was Moron the Brave, the idiot who somehow managed to establish a kingdom named after himself. Eugene's hand grips the velvet armrest of the carriage tightly. They all lived good lives until they died. But a burning question consumes him. If Vermouth promised to defeat all the Demon Kings, why is the Demon King still alive? He remembers the moment of his own death in the Castle of Incarceration and the vow Vermouth made. That promise ended the war and brought 300 years of peace, a peace that persists to this day. Inside the carriage, the silence is broken by Lord Gordon, an older man with a mustache sitting opposite Eugene. He remarks with a condescending smile that Eugene must be nervous, warning him that if he's already anxious, he will struggle at the Patriarch's mansion. Eugene masks his annoyance with a polite, cheerful smile, thanking Lord Gordon for the advice. The carriage passes through a gate into a lush green forest. Gordon announces that they have entered the Lionheart property. Eugene instinctively stands up, but Gordon waves him down, laughing that there is no need to prepare yet because the estate is so massive that the mansion is still far away. Eugene sits back down, thinking to himself that Gordon is awfully smug for someone who doesn't even own the land. Eugene asks if such a large estate isn't inconvenient. Gordon explains that there are several warp gates for travel, so it isn't an issue.
When Eugene pointedly asked why he is stuck traveling by carriage, Gordon offers a smug, apologetic smile, explaining that Eugene hasn't been granted permission to use the warp gates yet. Eugene forces another smile, hiding his irritation. Finally, the carriage rolls to a stop before a magnificent, towering palace adorned with blue and gold banners. They have arrived at the Lionheart Patriarch's mansion. Gordon steps out and gestures grandly toward the entrance. Eugene steps down onto the pavement, his golden eyes sharp and focused as Gordon formally welcomes him, addressing him as Sir Eugene.
The wind sweeps through the grand entrance of the Lionheart estate, fluttering the blue and gold flags high above. A young boy named Eugene stands at the gate with a butler. Eugene thinks to himself, "A welcome ceremony. There's no way I would get one." They walk toward the massive castle in the distance. The narration reveals the significance of the crest. Vermouth of Lionheart. The only people allowed to have the lion crest on their left chest are the direct bloodlines of the Lionhearts. Eugene clutches his chest, feeling the weight of his lineage. The butler turns to him. "Have any of the other relatives arrived yet?" Eugene asked. "It seems that you are the first, Lord Eugene," the butler replies. "Now allow me to guide you to the guest house." Inside the mansion, a young maid in a frilly apron bows politely. "My name is Nina. I'll be attending to all of your needs while you are staying here with us, Lord Eugene." She holds out a small golden bell. "If there is anything that you need, please ring this bell." Eugene observes her critically. "At least they gave me a personal maid," he thinks. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he asks, "You look young. How old are you?" "I'm 16, Nina replies with a smile. "I just finished my training period." Eugene's expression darkens with suspicion. To think that they would assign me a servant that just finished training. If the unfortunate servant were to cause any trouble for them, are they trying to place the blame on me? Whoever's idea this was, they're blatantly trying to bother me. He asks, "Do you know when the other family members will be arriving?" "They should be arriving within the next 4 days at the latest," Nina answers. Eugene stands up abruptly, looking determined. "Take me to the training grounds." Nina looks flustered. Excuse me?" "Okay." Outside on the castle grounds, 2 other children, a boy and a girl with silver hair, are walking together. "What did they say his name was?" the girl asks. "Eugene," the boy replies. "He's the same age as us," she notes. The boy scoffs arrogantly. "I heard that he's from a small country town at the west end of the empire. I'm sure he's more used to using a rake than training with a wooden sword. The carriage that he came in must be filthy with animal excrement." He covers his nose and laughs. "Even if he is a relative of ours, I'm sure he has to take the responsibility if he were to stain or damage the main house's property." The girl giggles, clapping her hands. Yeah, you're right. Let's go scold him." "We're not scolding him, but giving him a warning," the boy corrects her with a smirk. "Let's go, CL." "You're just too kind," CL teases. From a high window, Eugene watches them walk through the garden. Suddenly, the girl stops. She turns and looks directly up at the window, her eyes glowing with an intense yellow light. She has sensed his gaze. Eugene is startled by her sharp instincts. CL smirks knowingly and walks away. Later, on the training grounds, Eugene stands alone with a training spear, while Nina watches from the sidelines. He lunges forward, thrusting the weapon with incredible speed and power. The air whooshes as he swings the spear, creating sharp trails of wind. "Although I wasn't lazy with my training in my past life as Hamel, I'll have to make sure to train this new body of mine furiously."
Eugene continues his rigorous training, his body moving with a fluidity and resilience that surprises even him. He realizes that no matter how hard he pushes himself, he never gets sick, and his injuries heal at an unnatural speed. With a powerful swing of his weighted spear, he marvels at his new vessel. The things this body containing the blood of the vermouth is capable of, he thinks, grinning as he unleashes a strike that tears through the wind, is beyond my imagination. Nearby, Nina, the maid, watches in awe, her hands covering her mouth. Impressive, she thinks, trembling slightly. To think he's capable of moving like that with sandbags on his arms and his spear. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sharp voice. Hey! Nina flinches as Scion and Ciel approach the training ground. Scion looks down at the maid with disdain. What is he doing? Lord Scion, Madame Ciel, she stammers, bowing frantically. What brings you here? Scion ignores her nervousness, pointing a finger at Eugene. I'm asking you, what does he think he's doing here? Before Nina can answer, a heavy thud echoes as Eugene slams the butt of his spear into the dirt. He looks over his shoulder calmly. Can't you tell? I'm practicing with my spear. Turning his back to them to resume his stance, Eugene adds casually, You idiot. Scion freezes, his eyes widening. Ciel leans in, whispering with a mischievous grin. Brother, that country kid is calling you an idiot. Scion's face contorts with rage, veins popping on his forehead. How dare he seethes, stepping forward and shouting, Apologize to me now! Eugene turns around and immediately replies with a blank expression, I'm sorry. The abrupt and emotionless apology leaves Scion confused for a moment. He clenches his fists, screaming, That wasn't sincere! Bow down, and with sincerity! Eugene tilts his head, looking genuinely puzzled. Aren't you the same age as me? Why do I need to bow if we're friends? You dare think that we're friends? Scion yells, pointing at the ground. Just because you have the Lionheart name doesn't mean we're considered equals. Ciel suddenly tugs on Scion's sleeve. Brother, the carriage, the carriage! Oh, right! Scion composes himself, remembering his plan to humiliate the newcomer. He points an accusing finger at Eugene. Hey you, go clean the carriage you came in. It must be stinking from all the farm animals you take care of. Eugene stares at him for a beat, then looks down at the small maid standing nearby. Nina, you're my personal servant, right? Yes, Lord Eugene, she replies dutifully. Eugene points his thumb over his shoulder. Then go clean the carriage that I came in. Scion's jaw drops. What? Oh, but, Nina stammers, looking between the two boys. Scion's face darkens, his eyes glowing with a menacing yellow light. I told you to go clean it, he growls, his voice dropping an octave. You dare tell your servant to go clean it when I ordered you specifically? He steps forward, aura flaring around him. I'm Scion Lionheart. Eugene smiles brightly, waving his hand. Yeah, I'm Eugene Lionheart. It's nice to meet you too. Ciel steps up beside her brother, waving with a forced, sweet smile. I'm Ciel Lionheart. Scion's patience snaps completely. His expression twists into pure malice. There's no point in being nice to you. You ignored my orders. He looks down and spots a wooden training sword lying on the ground. Scion snatches it up with a firm grip. Engulfed in a fiery red aura, Scion points the wooden blade at Eugene, his eyes burning with fury. And you dishonored me. I request a duel.
In a sunlit, opulent drawing room, Lady Ancilla stands with her back to a large window, casting a long shadow over her son, Scion, and his guardian knight, Hazar. The atmosphere is suffocatingly tense. Ancilla holds a folded fan, her expression unreadable as she breaks the silence. So, my son Scion challenged some brat from the collateral line and lost? Hazar, a middle-aged man in a suit, looks down nervously, sweat beading on his forehead. Yes, he admits quietly. Ancilla smiles, though her eyes remain cold. Scion, come here.
The young boy hesitates, trembling, before stepping toward his mother. Suddenly, she strikes him with the folded fan. As he recoils, she presses the hard tip of the fan directly into his chest, pinning him in place. "Not only that, but he lost in a single strike?" she asks sharply. Sion grimaces in pain. Mother, it hurts." "Stay still," she commands, her eyes glowing with a terrifying intensity. She turns her gaze back to the knight. "Hazar, are you sure that brat has never trained to use his mana?" "Yes," Hazar replies, bowing his head. "The son of Sir Gerhard, Eugene, did not have a trace of mana in his body." Ancilla turns to her daughter, Seal, who is standing quietly to the side. "Seal, how did your brother lose?" Seal answers with bright enthusiasm, mimicking the action. "At the start of the fight, Eugene thrust his spear. Brother was surprised and tried to retreat, but Eugene's spear was even faster." Ancilla's eyes narrow as she processes the information. So that was how the fight ended, with a single strike. Sion looks up at her, tears in his eyes. "Mother." Before he can finish, Ancilla slaps him hard across the face. Her composure shatters, and she screams in a rage. "How dare you challenge someone to a duel and lose in front of such lowly beings? Not only that, to a boy who has never trained with mana." She looms over the terrified boy, her face twisted with fury. "Your father will soon return for the bloodline continuation ritual. What do you expect me to tell him? Do you know how much that skank Theonis will jeer at me?" Sion sobs openly now, clutching his chest. I'm sorry. Mother, I'm really sorry." Ancilla turns on Hazar, her voice dropping to a lethal calm. "Hazar, right now I want to kill you with my own hands. However, you are a knight favored by my husband." She points to the door. "Go train Sion so that he will never shame me again. Take him and leave." "Yes," Hazar replies quickly. He ushers the crying boy out of the room, leaving Ancilla and Seal alone. As the heavy doors close, Ancilla snaps her fan open with a sharp flick. She lets out a long sigh, composing herself. When she looks up, her face has returned to a mask of elegant indifference. "Seal." "Yes, mother?" the girl asks. Ancilla smiles sweetly. "That boy, you said his name was Eugene? Stay close to that boy." Seal tilts her head, confused. "Why?" "That boy is already strong enough to beat your brother," Ancilla says aloud, but internally her thoughts are murderous. "I want that brat killed immediately, but I'd be the first suspect. And in the Lionheart family, if homicide occurs, the guardians of the familial code will come. I need to avoid that at all costs." She hides a sinister smirk behind her fan. "So it's good to stay close." Seal, unaware of her mother's true intentions, beams happily. "All right, mother, I also want to learn more about him. I'll befriend Eugene." The scene shifts to the following day. 3 young boys stand in a row, introduced as the heirs of the collateral lines: Deacon, age 11, Hansen, age 14, and Jewess, age 10. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps thuds against the ground as someone else approaches rapidly.
Eugene jogs across the training grounds, his chest heaving and sweat dripping from his face. He passes a startled maid in the courtyard. "Young Master Eugene," she gasps. "Hey, Nina," Eugene replies between breaths, not slowing his pace. Suddenly, Nina scrambles after him, her face pale with urgency. "They're here!" Eugene slows to a walk, wiping his brow. "Oh, you said that the other 2 collateral heirs are coming, right? It looks like they're early." Nina shakes her head frantically, tears forming in her eyes. "Yes, however, the head of the family is also here." Eugene freezes, his eyes widen in genuine shock. "The head of the Lionhearts?" Nina begins to panic, gesturing wildly at his disheveled appearance. "You need to go greet him. Wait, first, you need to change your clothes. And
Eugene grabs a towel and wipes the sweat from his neck, dismissing her concern. Then I'll be the only one late. It'd be better to just go sweaty like this. The scene shifts to the main entrance of the estate. A massive retinue of servants and family members lines the path as the sun sets, casting a golden glow over the grand procession. Eugene quietly slips into the line next to a nervous-looking Cyan. Narrator: the person next to Cyan and Ciel is the second wife, Anisela. Anisela stands tall and elegant, though her expression is guarded. Beside her, Cyan trembles slightly. Narrator: the person in front of her is Theonis, the legal wife, and that kid is the eldest son of the direct family and also the first in line for succession, Iode Lionheart. Iode, a boy with pale hair and intense yellow eyes, stares straight ahead, his face a mask of anxiety. The iron gates creak open. Two riders on magnificent horses enter the grounds. The man in the lead radiates an overwhelming aura of power. Narrator: Gilad Lionheart. Gilad, the patriarch, has a thick gray beard and piercing eyes that seem to see through everything. Narrator: and following him is his younger brother, Guion. Guion rides casually behind his brother, wearing a faint, confident smile. As they dismount, Theonis watches stoically, but young Iode is sweating profusely. Gilad approaches his eldest son and places a heavy hand on his boy's head. Gilad: Iode, you've grown. Have your skills grown as well? Iode stammers, terrified. I am trying my hardest to meet your expectations, father. Gilad stares down at him for a moment in silence before moving on to the second family. His expression softens slightly as he looks at his other children. Cyan and Ciel, I almost didn't recognize you two. Children really grow up so fast. Ciel beams up at him, bouncing on her heels. We missed you, father. Gilad continues down the line until he reaches a stout man standing with his wife and a newborn baby. Guilford, Gilad says, I heard you had a son. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there for you in such a time of celebration. Guilford waves his hands dismissively, looking relieved. Brother, do not worry about such things. Finally, Gilad turns his gaze toward the back of the group, his eyes locking onto Eugene and the other boys. And the children of the collateral line. He surveys the gathering with a charismatic smile. Let's have a meal together. As the sun dips below the horizon, Gilad drops the true purpose of his arrival. We will discuss the bloodline continuation ritual.
Under the glow of a massive crystal chandelier, the Lionheart family gathers in the grand dining hall. A long, ornate table is set with fine china and silverware. At the head of the table sits the patriarch, Gilad Lionheart. To his sides sit the main family members, including his wife Theonis and his children, Cyan and Ciel. Further down, the children of the collateral lines sit in silence, waiting for the meal to begin. Among the collateral children, a large, sturdy boy named Gargus sits with a serious expression. Beside him is Desira, a girl with dark skin and silver hair, looking equally tense. Eugene observes the room quietly. He notices the two children who arrived via the warp gate with the family head. He realizes these must be from the families held in highest regard among the collateral lines. But his attention is suddenly drawn to an unfamiliar figure seated casually at the table. A person with long blonde hair and a cheerful demeanor who doesn't seem to fit the tense atmosphere. And who is he? Eugene wonders to himself. Wasn't the meal supposed to be for the family and the children participating? Unable to contain her curiosity, Ciel speaks up. Father, who is that guest? Gilad pauses, clasping his hands. I was planning to introduce him later. The blonde guest interrupts with a relaxed smile, standing up. It's fine. Eugene watches suspiciously over the rim of his teacup. The guest waves enthusiastically at the table, sparkles seeming to radiate from him. "Hello, children. I'm Liberian, from the Red Tower." The room erupts in shock. "Liberian?" Gargus gasps, sweating nervously. Eugene is caught completely off guard. He sprays his tea across the table in a burst of shock. "The Tower Master of the Red Tower?" As Eugene coughs violently, trying to clear his throat, Liberian looks over with a friendly smile. "Are you all right?" "Yes, I am fine," Eugene chokes out, wiping his mouth. Internally, Eugene's mind is racing. The Master of the Red Tower is a disciple of Sienna, one of Eugene's old comrades from his past life. Specifically, Liberian is the disciple of Sienna's disciple. Memories flood Eugene's mind. 300 years ago, Sienna Rose became the Tower Master of the Green Tower, the youngest in the history of Arath. She completely reconstructed the standard magic textbooks and taught students from all towers, even advising other tower masters. To this day, the masters of the Green and Red Towers hold Sienna the Wise as their Grand Master. Eugene stares at Gilade, thinking, "To think that I'd meet someone related to my old comrades here." Gilade breaks the silence, turning his piercing yellow eyes toward Eugene. "You said your name was Eugene, right? I heard from Theonis. My son insulted you and your father." Scion freezes, terror washing over his face as he realizes his father knows about the incident. "Yes," Eugene answers calmly, "but I don't hold any grudges." You lean forward, intrigued. "Because you won the duel." Eugene clenches his fist on the table, his expression hardening. "It would be the same if I lost. If I was so weak that I couldn't defend my own honor, then I must endure the shame." A smile creeps across Gilade's face. "You're better than my son." The patriarch turns his gaze to Scion, his voice dropping to a stern tone. "Scion." "Yes," the boy squeaks, trembling. "I am not ashamed of your defeat," Gilade says coldly. "I am disappointed that you're gauging my response while being ashamed of your defeat." Scion hangs his head, unable to meet his father's eyes. "The duel began with your insult," Gilade continues, "yet you did not apologize to Eugene even after the duel." "That's—" Scion stammers, looking for an excuse. Gilade raises a hand, his voice commanding. "Scion, you hold the name of Lionheart. The great Vermouth is your ancestor. If you carry his blood, you need to learn to not only honor yourself, but your opponent as well." Shamed, Scion turns toward Eugene. He hesitates, his face flushing red, before bowing his head slightly. "I apologize." Eugene keeps a neutral face, though his inner thoughts are less charitable. "It's obvious you're forcing yourself, fucker." The tension eases slightly as Gilade addresses Eugene again. "Eugene, you said your father is Gerhard, right? I'm sorry to say that I don't know your father." Eugene shrugs, unfazed by the comment. "Understandably so. Even I think that our family is located in the middle of nowhere."
Gilade gazes up at the ornate ceiling, his voice echoing slightly in the large hall. "Did you learn from your father?" Eugene stands respectfully before the patriarch. "He taught me the basics, but I learned the rest myself." Gilade maintains a stoic expression, but his mind races with disbelief. He trained without anyone teaching him, and he beat Scion at that level? A smirk tugs at the corner of Gilade's mouth. This ceremony will be very entertaining to watch. Later, the long dining table is laden with a magnificent feast. Maids pour wine and serve steaming dishes. Gilade sits at the head of the table, gesturing welcomingly. "I hope you all enjoy the meal. Come, eat. You all must be hungry." Night falls over the castle, the full moon illuminating the stone towers. Inside, the dinner concludes. Servants quietly clear the empty plates as the guests settle in for the main discussion. Gilade commands the room's attention. "As I said earlier,
The reason I prepared this opportunity today is so that I can explain the context of the bloodline continuation ceremony to you all. Suddenly, a young girl's voice cuts through the silence. It is Ciel, sitting beside her twin brother, Sion. I know it's strange coming from me, but I believe the traditional methods of the ceremony are extremely discriminatory. She continues, her tone serious. The ceremony is designed for the direct bloodline. The children of the collateral lines cannot train with mana or even hold real weapons until the ceremony. It's impossible for the children of the collateral family to win against the direct bloodline if that happens. Gilead listens patiently as Ciel finishes her critique. In this bloodline continuation ceremony, 3 of my children will participate. However, he leans forward, his golden eyes sweeping across the children gathered at the table. I wish to test the potential of not only my children, but also the rest of you who all bear the name of Lionheart. The ceremony is meant to prove that you are the descendant of the great Vermouth. The direct and the collateral are meaningless in the face of it. Eugene lowers his gaze, a private thought crossing his mind. Vermouth, your descendant is a kinder man than you. Gilead gestures to the man beside him. That is why for this bloodline continuation ceremony, we have decided to request assistance from outside. Loberian, the Red Tower Master, beams at the group. That's why I'm here, everyone. With a sharp snap of his fingers, magic floods the room. A complex glowing blue blueprint of a maze manifests on the surface of the dining table. The children stare in awe. This ceremony, you will all explore the maze I have created, Loberian explains, pointing to the projection. Everyone will enter through different entrances and defeat the elite monster in the center. He points to a hulking figure in the middle of the magical map. Of course, you need to get through many traps and battles to arrive there. Loberian holds up a hand, summoning a small glowing illusion of a monster. But all the events that happen there are illusions I created with magic. No matter what you think you experienced, it's not reality. He crushes the illusion in his fist, a manic grin spreading across his face. It's just an action-packed adventure. Eugene observes the mage carefully. So, he's mixed in not only summoning magic, but also high-level mind control magic as well. You'd need at least that much to be the Tower Master. Loberian continues his explanation as the projection shows tiny figures fighting a boss. If one of you 9 defeats the boss monster, the ceremony is over. You will all receive points based on your contribution. A timid girl raises her hand, looking nervous. Is it fine if we don't manage to escape the maze? Of course, Loberian replies casually. If you're scared, you can stay at the entrance, but you won't get good points. Eugene speaks up, his voice clear. If we defeat the boss, what will we receive? Gilead interlaces his fingers, a generous smile on his face. I will allow you to take a single treasure from our family's underground treasure chamber. Eugene's eyes sparkle with exaggerated childish delight. Whoa, that's awesome! The meeting adjourns. Eugene walks down the lavishly carpeted hallway, his innocent facade dropping instantly. I'll win the ceremony anyway, he thinks, his expression turning calculating. Let's think about what I'll take from the treasure chamber. Suddenly,
Standing in the hallway, blocking his path, are the 2 Branch family children. They glare at him with crossed arms, waiting for a confrontation.
Inside a grand hall, a muscular young man with wavy gray hair, Gargith, confronts Eugene. Standing beside the large man is a girl with short silver hair, Desra. Gargith crosses his arms and asks skeptically, "Did you really win a duel against Cyan Lionheart?" Eugene, looking unimpressed, simply replies, "Yeah." Without waiting for a follow-up, Eugene turns his back to them. "If you're out of questions, I'm leaving," he says, walking away. Gargith reaches out in confusion, shouting, "Huh?" as Eugene leaves them standing there dumbfounded. Later that night, under a bright full moon, Eugene is alone in the castle courtyard. He grips a wooden sword, practicing his swings with intense focus. He slashes through the air, creating sharp gusts of wind with every movement. Sweat drips from his face as he executes a powerful downward strike, carving a line of energy into the dirt. He stops when he notices two figures watching him from the shadows. It is the same muscular man and the girl from earlier. Eugene wipes his brow, thinking to himself, "What are they doing over there? Why aren't they leaving?" Gargith steps forward confidently. Suddenly, he rips his shirt open, tearing the fabric apart to reveal an absurdly muscular physique. Eugene stares blankly at the display, thinking, "Is he a dumbass?" The man slaps his bare chest, loud enough to echo in the courtyard. "You can touch it," Gargith offers proudly. "No thanks," Eugene replies instantly. Undeterred, Gargith flexes his biceps, sparkles seemingly appearing around him. "My family has a secret muscle growth medicine. It's a medicine that can accelerate muscle growth depending on the training, without accumulating mana inside the body. Despite that, it has no side effects." He poses like a bodybuilder, showing off his back muscles. "Are you interested?" Eugene looks at him with a bead of sweat running down his head. "Did you come here to sell me snake oil?" he mutters under his breath. "Whether you're a man or a woman, if you take that medicine, you grow a beard." Desra finally steps in, ignoring her companion's antics. She holds two wooden spears. "I heard you used a spear while dueling Cyan, so why are you using a wooden sword now?" "I use both the sword and the spear." "I see. So can you use any weapons proficiently?" As she speaks, Desra tosses one of the wooden spears high into the air toward him. Eugene catches the weapon effortlessly with one hand. Desra spins her own spear and gets into a combat stance, smiling fiercely. "I specialize in the spear. Duel me with it." Eugene grips the weapon, analyzing the situation. He thinks to himself, "She seems easier to deal with than this guy who wants to sell me muscle medicine. Not to mention, I'm curious about the skills of kids from high-ranking collateral lines." He readies his stance and looks her in the eye. "All right." Under the night sky, Eugene stands ready with glowing golden eyes, his defensive stance perfect. He radiates an intimidating aura that screams there is no opening for an attack. He looks across the training ground at Desra, who is hesitating. With a calm, almost bored demeanor, he calls out to her, "What are you doing? Come at me." Desra grits her teeth, sweat rolling down her face from the tension. With a sharp grunt, she snaps into action. She lunges forward with her wooden spear, shouting, "Hiya!" Eugene meets her charge head-on, their weapons colliding with a loud crack and a burst of light as they slide across the ground. She doesn't let up, swinging her spear down in a heavy overhead strike. Eugene blocks it effortlessly, sparks flying from the impact. As she struggles against his guard, she unleashes a rapid flurry of thrusts, her weapon moving like a blur of pink streaks. Eugene parries every single strike with precise, minimal movements, his expression focused but calm. As he defends against the barrage, Eugene analyzes her technique in his mind. She's quite excellent considering she's not even using mana, he thinks. Taking her age into account, her growth potential is great. He smiles confidently as he easily deflects another blow. But she's no match for me yet. With a powerful sweep, Eugene knocks her weapon aside, sending a shockwave through the air. He rests his spear upright and looks at her teasingly. "How come you can't even get a hit in?" he asks. Desra, panting and furious, snaps back. "Shut it!" She stares at him, trembling with exhaustion and anger. "He's able to block all my attacks without moving from his spot?" she realizes. Refusing to accept defeat, she yells, "Your cockiness is going to be your downfall." She charges in low, launching a blinding storm of thrusts, but Eugene remains an unmovable wall, deflecting a dozen attacks in the blink of an eye. Seeing that a frontal assault isn't working, Desra darts low and swings wide, aiming for his exposed flank. Her eyes gleam with a predatory grin. "I bet you can't block from this side," she yells. But before her strike can land, Eugene simply lifts his leg and stomps down hard. A heavy thud shakes the ground as he pins the shaft of her spear firmly to the earth with his boot. Desra's momentum is halted instantly. She yanks on the handle with both hands, groaning, "Ugh!" but it remains trapped. Before she can try again, the tip of Eugene's spear stops inches from her nose. She freezes, her eyes wide as she stares at the wooden point. Gargith watches the scene with wide eyes and announces loudly, "It's Eugene Lionheart's win."
Gargith stands in the center of the room with his arms crossed, his expression grave and intense. "We need to combine our strengths," he declares loudly. In the bed behind him, Eugene sits up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He looks at the large boy with utter disbelief and irritation. "You came and woke up someone who just fell asleep just to tell them that?" Eugene snaps, a vein popping on his forehead. Gargith ignores the complaint, his focus unwavering. "I want to hear your answer." Eugene sighs, running a hand through his messy hair. "You heard about the bloodline continuation ceremony from the head of the family as well," Eugene says, trying to inject some logic into the conversation. "We'll all be entering from different entrances, so how would we combine our strengths?" "Even if the entrances are different, the destination is the same," Gargith counters immediately. "The center of the labyrinth, the boss monster." The image of a shadowy, horned beast flashes in their minds. Gargith continues, his tone serious. "The twins from the main family will try to combine their strengths as well. So you're saying we'll gather at the center and fight the boss monster together?" "Yes," Eugene replies simply. He looks down at his hand, clenching it into a fist as a confident smirk spreads across his face. "I'm pretty sure I'll be able to defeat it alone." "You're full of yourself," a voice calls out from the doorway. Eugene looks over to see Desra leaning against the doorframe, her arms crossed. She stares at him with a mixture of annoyance and begrudging respect. "You are, but you're strong," she admits, her cheeks slightly flushed. "If you help, we'll definitely be able to defeat the boss monster." "Why do you want to kill it so badly?" Eugene asks, tilting his head. Desra pushes off the doorframe, her posture stiffening. "In the bloodline continuation ceremony, where both the direct line and the collateral line entered together," she explains, her voice tightening with frustration, "the collateral line has never won." She steps into the room, gesturing to Gargith and herself. "But we have a chance this time, Gargith and I, and you who defeated Cyan." She looks at Eugene with pleading, intense eyes. "Don't you want to beat the direct line?" Eugene stares back at her, his expression unreadable, contemplating the challenge. Elsewhere, in a dimly lit corridor of the main mansion, a woman in an elegant frilled dress stands by a tall arched window, gazing out at the moon. It is Ursula, the second wife of the family head. Her thoughts are consumed by the arrival of the Red Tower Master of Everoth. She worries that the Tower Master has come to take Eode as a disciple. If that happens, Eode would leave the main family, essentially forfeiting his position in the succession, while the twins, Cyan and Ciel, continue to grow. Ursula's eyes narrow as she grips her folding fan. The bloodline continuation ceremony is the problem, she thinks. The stigma of her children being born from the second wife haunts her. She has maintained her position only by standing confidently. But the recent events, specifically Cyan being defeated by a child from the collateral line, threaten everything. She grips her fan so tightly it snaps in her hand. But to be defeated by a mere child from the collateral line? Her expression shifts from anger to calculation. A new thought occurs to her. Rather, if Eugene Kid was to break through the labyrinth first, she imagines a giant, terrifying version of Eugene looming over her, radiating power. If his talents were to be so exceptional that he ends up humiliating the entirety of the direct line, then Cyan's defeat could be overshadowed. 3 days later, the bloodline continuation ceremony begins. A group of children stands in a forest clearing before a massive glowing blue portal carved into the rock. The Red Tower Master stands at the center, her coat billowing as she channels magical energy. With a bright flash, she casts a spell. Blue light rains down from the sky, washing over the participants. Eugene, Ciel, and the others look up, shielding their eyes as the magic surrounds them. "Firstly, we'll make our weapons," the Red Tower Master announces with a cheerful smile, pointing a finger upward. "Everyone, mold the light while imagining it in your head." The children concentrate. Gargith stares intently at his hands, sweat forming on his brow as he tries to shape the energy. Beside him, a boy struggles to form anything. Desra closes her eyes, focusing her will. The blue light in her hands begins to elongate and solidify. With a burst of energy, the light takes the shape of a rapier. "Wow!" Desra exclaims, her eyes wide with delight. She holds the glowing sword of light, marveling at its weightless perfection. She swings it through the air, the blade leaving a beautiful trail of blue energy as she tests her new weapon.
Desra looks at the shimmering blade of light in her hand, a sudden worry crossing her mind. She looks up at the Tower Master and asks what will happen if the weapon breaks. The Tower Master laughs gently, explaining that since both the labyrinth and the swords are constructed from magic, the weapon she is holding is indestructible while inside. Another student, holding a ball of magical energy, asks if he can create an animal instead. The Tower Master clarifies that while inanimate objects like dolls or golems are possible, creating living creatures is impossible. The twins, Sion and Ciel, look puzzled and ask why they cannot make life. The Tower Master's expression turns serious as she raises a finger, stating that it is a taboo of magic. The authority to create life belongs only to living creatures. Eugene listens quietly, taking it all in. Suddenly, a massive burst of light erupts nearby. Gargith swings a colossal greatsword, beaming with pride as he declares it identical to his favorite weapon back home. Ciel, unimpressed by his showing off, dryly asks if anyone actually asked for his opinion. Around the clearing, the other children finalize their constructs. A spear materializes with a sharp hiss, and Sion summons a long, shining sword. Eugene looks down at the modest, practical sword forming in his hands. He tests the weight, satisfied with the balance. As Eugene equips a round shield to go with his sword, Ciel approaches him. Her eyes glow with a competitive light as she asks what he intends to do if they meet inside the labyrinth, and if he plans to fight her. The group turns to the Tower Master, asking if fighting is permitted. She nods, confirming that competition is the core of the ceremony, but she adds a reminder: quick judgment and cooperation are also vital, for they are all family sharing the Lionheart blood. Ciel shoots Eugene a mischievous, predatory smirk, causing Eugene to recoil internally at her attitude. The Tower Master then calls for attention and distributes magical necklaces to each participant. She explains that the gems are connected to their consciousness. If they experience excessive stress or danger, the necklace will react, signaling her to intervene immediately. Eugene realizes it is a safety mechanism. The Tower Master adds that they can also voluntarily tap the gem and shout for help to forfeit the challenge. With the briefing complete, she gestures toward the swirling blue entrance of the cave. She smiles slyly as she warns them that although they enter through the same gate, the magic will scatter them onto different paths immediately. Ciel waves a cheerful goodbye to Eugene, telling him to hang in there. Eugene waves back casually and steps through the portal. The world warps around him, and his boot strikes the stone floor of a dark, gloomy corridor. He is alone. Eugene smirks in the darkness. In his past life, he explored dungeons and labyrinths until he was sick of them. He scans the environment, noting the blocked ceiling and the narrow walls. He swings his sword, confirming his suspicion. The constricted space makes long weapons a liability. That is why he chose the sword and shield, the most versatile combination for unknown, tight quarters. Knowing this labyrinth was designed for children, he predicts the difficulty will be manageable. With a confident grin, he marches into the depths.
Panic erupts in the dark corridors of the labyrinth. A young participant finds himself cornered by a swarm of bouncing green slimes. Overwhelmed and terrified, he swings his sword blindly, but the monsters are too numerous. Screaming in fear, he clutches the magical gem on his necklace and cries out for help. Instantly, a magical barrier activates, and the examiners swoop in to rescue him. He is safe, but his challenge has ended in failure. 1 hour has passed since the ceremony began. Outside the labyrinth, 3 children stand with their heads bowed in shame. Tears stream down their faces as the reality of their elimination sets in. The Tower Master looks down at them with a stern but calm expression, ordering them to go and rest. They obediently walk away, leaving the competition behind. Deep inside the surveillance room, the Tower Master and his assistants monitor the remaining participants through magical viewing portals. They observe the different strategies unfolding within the maze. On one screen, Gargeeth displays his raw power. He faces a group of armed goblins in a stone corridor. Ignoring finesse, he roars and swings his massive greatsword, smashing the monsters with brute force. He slams a goblin directly into the wall, crushing it. The examiners note that while he is clumsy, his overwhelming strength allows him to plow through obstacles without much trouble. Elsewhere, Desira faces the slime creatures that defeated the earlier participant. She is far more composed. Wielding a long spear, she moves with agility, striking and retreating. She realizes that cutting slimes with a blade is inefficient. Instead of wasting energy on a drawn-out fight, she waits for an opening and sprints past them. She is quick-witted, choosing to navigate the labyrinth rather than get bogged down in combat. Meanwhile, Scion stands alone in a dark hallway. He looks down at a suspicious section of the floor with a confident smirk. He recalls a secret memory. His mother had acquired a map of the labyrinth before the ceremony began. He and his sister Ciel had memorized the layout. Knowing exactly what lies ahead, Scion rolls a small stone across the floor tiles. The moment the stone touches the ground, a deadly volley of arrows shoots from the walls, striking the empty air. Scion watches from a safe distance, his unfair advantage keeping him safe from the obvious trap. "Let's go!" Scion shouts, sprinting down the corridor the moment the arrow trap finishes firing. He runs with confidence, his footsteps echoing against the stone walls. In the observation room, the examiners evaluate his performance. Scion is too timid, the report states. However, the evaluation continues with a grudging compliment. But it's his hesitation that lets him avoid the traps. Not too bad. Elsewhere in the labyrinth, a blue magic circle swirls on the ground. A goblin materializes from the light, screeching as it spots Ciel. The monster swings a hammer, but Ciel is too fast. She dodges the clumsy attack with a sharp cry of "Kjarg" and retaliates with her rapier. Her movements are fluid. She weaves around the goblin's strikes, waiting for an opening. "Yah!" she shouts, driving her blade forward. The magical construct shatters into fragments of light upon impact. Ciel dashes away, looking for the exit, but soon skids to a halt. "Huh? It's a dead end," she realizes, looking at the solid wall. She sighs, turning around. Let's go back to that split earlier. The narration notes that while Ciel uses her instincts to move quickly, she is still not mature enough and acts childish at times. Deep in another section of the maze, a portal opens in front of Eugene. A goblin steps out, growling, "Krrr." Eugene's eyes sparkle with excitement. "Amazing!" he exclaims, admiring the creature. "This is a monster made from magic." The goblin lunges. Eugene parries the attack easily, feigning surprise with a light "Ah!" He dances around the monster, his sword clashing against the goblin's blade with a series of sharp metallic rings. He isn't struggling, he is studying the magic that animates his enemy. In the surveillance room, a blonde woman turns to the patriarch of the Lionheart family. "Iode seems to have an interest in magic," she observes, watching Eugene on the screen. "That boy has always loved magic, ever since he was a baby," the patriarch replies with a warm smile. We've tried inviting a magic teacher from the capital, but he refused to learn anymore halfway. Why is that? The Asmus asks. The patriarch's expression turns serious. He's given up to reality. He believes that he needs to have infinite possibilities, but its path is hard, because magic is not as valued in the Vermouth family. The woman sits back in her chair. I understand. Magic may have infinite possibilities, but its path is a hard one. But I do wish that Iode follows the path of the arcane, the patriarch admits. If he still has a passion for magic, he will not be able to refuse the opportunity to be a disciple of the Red Tower Master. The woman, the Red Tower Master, looks skeptical. I can't make any promises. I will bring him along for our acquaintance, but if his potential is insufficient, I cannot make him my disciple. Of course, I have no intention of forcing that, the patriarch assures her. However, I wish that boy may pursue his dreams. He continues, in fact, instead of his own ancestor, the great Vermouth, Iode actually reveres the wise Sienna. The Tower Master smiles, pleased by this revelation. I agree with that as well. In the story of the hero Vermouth, I preferred the story of the wise Sienna. Every time the party was in danger, she would come up with an amazing new spell. I have also read that story many times since I was a kid, the patriarch says, raising a finger. Actually, my favorite character in that story was neither Sienna or Vermouth. Then who did you like best? She asks curiously. My favorite character was... The patriarch pauses, his eyes suddenly widening as he looks at the magical screen. What's wrong? The Tower Master asks. Look at that, he points. Inside the labyrinth, the difficulty has spiked. A massive orc stands before Eugene, towering over the small boy. The beast roars, "War!" and brings his massive fists down in a crushing smash. Eugene raises his shield. The impact is tremendous, sending shockwaves through the room, but Eugene holds his ground. He immediately dashes backward, creating distance. As the orc rampages, Eugene uses his speed to run along the walls, dodging the debris and heavy blows. The Red Tower Master watches in shock, sweat forming on her brow. Just who is that boy? The patriarch stares, mesmerized by the display of skill. Amazing. Inside the dungeon, Eugene crouches low, his eyes glowing with a fierce golden intensity. He is no ordinary child. He is Eugene Lionheart. The massive green foot of the defeated monster lies still on the stone floor, surrounded by glowing green blood. Standing calmly next to the beast is Eugene, his sword at his side. He looks up, his eyes glowing with a fierce golden light as energy crackles around him. In the observation room, the patriarch watches the screen with a wide, proud smile. "Isn't he incredible?" he asks. Being only 13 years old, he should have no experience fighting a troll. But rather than freezing up from fear, he cleanly neutralized it. The Red Tower Master clutches her chin, sweat beading on her face. She is visibly shaken. "The troll wasn't created to fight," she explains. "It's more of a trap meant for them to find a way to evade. I even made it bigger than real life, yet he killed it easily." "He might be a kid," the patriarch says, gesturing with his hand, "but it's possible if he has natural-born talent." The Tower Master looks at him seriously. "You know what kids like them are called, right?" The image of a legendary warrior flashes behind the young boy's confident smirk. The word echoes in the air. Genius. Back in the labyrinth, the battle that just concluded plays out in brutal detail. The troll's gigantic fist smashes down, but Gargith intercepts it. Despite the size difference, he blocks the blow with his sword, sparks flying from the impact. He uses the momentum to kick off the giant hand, flipping backward through the air and landing gracefully. The troll roars, its eyes glowing red. Gargith, already riddled with arrows from previous traps, screams, "Oh!" He forces his exhausted body to move, his eyes burning with determination. As the monster swings again, Gargith slides underneath the attack, his blade slicing through the troll's thick legs. Green blood sprays into the air. The monster stumbles. Seizing the opening, Gargith leaps high into the air. With a trail of blue energy following his blade, he brings the sword down in a devastating vertical slash. The troll roars one last time before crashing to the ground, defeated. Gargith stands triumphantly over the corpse for a moment, then collapses, gasping for air. He clutches his chest, his face twisted in pain. It cut through the muscles I'm so proud of, and even broke my ribs, he thinks, assessing the damage. Trolls really are strong. He forces himself to stand, using his sword as a cane. I got caught up in multiple traps, and I even fought a troll, he mutters, stumbling forward before falling again. Considering how hurt I am, I doubt the others are unscathed. Elsewhere in the maze, Scion freezes in his tracks. A massive troll blocks his path. It's a troll, he thinks, his eyes wide with fear. He holds a stone in his trembling hand. For a semi-large monster to be here, I bet this monster wasn't placed here to be defeated. Thinking quickly, he hurls the stone against a far wall. Clack! The sound distracts the beast, causing it to turn its head. Seizing the chance, he sprints past the monster while its back is turned. I did it, he thinks, running into the darkness, leaving the confused troll behind. He runs down a quiet corridor until a voice calls out, "Big bro!" The boy stops and looks up. "Ciel!" A young girl with long silver hair stands waiting for him. "We managed to meet up, even though we started at different spots," she says, pointing down the hall. "That probably means we're close to the center of the maze."
Scion smiles confidently, holding his sword high as he leads the way through the stone corridor. "This is a good thing, Ciel," he declares. "As long as you follow me, you won't get lost here." Behind him, Ciel nods cheerfully, raising a fist. "Okay, got it." But inside, Scion is desperate. He remembers the humiliation he suffered just days ago, kneeling in defeat while Eugene loomed over him with a wooden sword, with Ciel watching. "I was humiliated in front of Ciel a few days ago, thanks to that damn Eugene," he thinks, clenching his fist until it shakes. "This is my chance to repair my reputation." Suddenly, Ciel stops and points into the darkness. "Big bro!" Scion turns back immediately, eager to prove himself. "What is it? You can ask me anything." Ciel looks around the dark, illusory corridors warily. "Since this maze is an illusion, any monster can be here, right?" Scion chuckles, walking forward with his chest puffed out. "Well, of course. Why are you stating the obvious? Like ghosts, for example." At the mention of ghosts, Ciel smiles teasingly. "Huh, are you afraid of something like ghosts?" Scion freezes, sweat beading on his face, but he tries to maintain his composure. "Don't worry," he stammers, pointing his blade at a dark corner. "No matter what shows up, your big bro will—" Suddenly, a bloodied, terrifying face peers around the corner with a glowing yellow eye. "Ah!" Scion screams in pure terror, losing all dignity. Ciel screams too. The figure steps out. It's a girl with wild hair and blood on her face. She screams back at them in shock. "Kia!" Realizing who it is, Scion points an accusing finger, his face red with embarrassment. "Desera! How dare you scare me!" Desera just as loudly shouts back, "You scared me more! You shouted so suddenly!" Scion looks at her battered appearance. "What's that blood? I bet you were planning on a surprise attack after scaring me." Desera scowls, wiping her face. "This is because I got hurt from a trap," she thinks to herself, annoyed. "Tch, the first ambush failed." Without another word, she turns and bolts down the hallway. "Huh?" Scion blinks. "Big bro, she's running away!" Ciel cries out. Scion grits his teeth. "Damn it," he thinks. "I ended up making a fool of myself again because of her. I won't forgive her." He waves his sword forward furiously. "Let's follow her, Ciel."
Tessera sprints through the dungeon, panic in her eyes. I'll never win in a 2v1, she thinks. Where's that musclehead? She runs past a body lying on the floor. It's Gargith, lying face down with arrows in his back, but she doesn't stop.
Suddenly, the ground beneath her rumbles. A trap? The stone floor crumbles away into a deep pit. Tessera barely manages to hop across the falling debris to the other side. Scion and Ciel skid to a halt at the edge of the chasm. Scion looks at the wide gap where the floor used to be. The floor caved in, and it's quite far to the other side, he calculates. Do I need to go around? He glances at his sister, his pride on the line. No, I can't be more of a fool than I already am to Ciel. His eyes glow with golden energy. I wanted to save this until I met the boss monster, but I guess I have no choice, he decides. I'll have to use mana. Blue flames erupt around his body. With a shout of Hi-ya! Scion sprints forward and leaps across the abyss, his speed enhanced by magic. He lands perfectly on the other side and spins around, reaching out his hand. Ciel, you jump too! I'll catch you! Ciel leaps, her own body surrounded by blue energy. Scion catches her safely, and they land together. He smirks, regaining his confidence. I expected of my younger sister. He points his sword down the hall. Let's continue our chase. Okay, Ciel agrees. Continuing their game of cat and mouse, Scion, Ciel, and Tessera finally arrive at the center of the maze. They freeze. Looming before them is a massive, muscular minotaur sitting on a throne. Tessera stares up in awe, blood still staining her face. This is the boss monster. But then, a familiar voice cuts through the tension. Why did the three of you arrive here together? Scion's jaw drops. Standing casually in the shadows next to the boss is Eugene. He looks completely unharmed and bored. What are you doing here? Scion stammers in disbelief. Eugene crosses his arms and smirks confidently. I was waiting. I was curious who'd get here first. The group stands in a dimly lit stone chamber. Eugene, looking relaxed and confident, addresses the other three exhausted students, Tessera, Scion, and Ciel. You were waiting to see who came first? Tessera. The first person to come was you. Eugene. Correct. Waiting for us despite reaching the center of the labyrinth first? Tessera grips her spear tightly. Her clothes are tattered, and she has blood on her face from previous battles. She looks at Eugene with suspicion. Can I see that as you accepting the proposal that you would team up with me and Gargis? Eugene scratches his head casually, dismissing the idea. Now that I think about it, there was talk like that. It's not that, but I'm yielding the spot to you. Even if I fight the boss monster alone, I can quickly win. But if I do that, wouldn't that be too sad for all of you who struggled to make it so far? Scion. What did you say? Eugene turns and gestures grandly toward the massive creature looming in the shadows behind him, a giant minotaur sitting on a stone throne. This boss monster doesn't seem to attack you if you aren't within a certain distance. Thus, he's currently on standby. Eugene points a finger at the group, laying out the rules. In the order that you guys came after me, you will approach the boss and fight him. Tessera, Scion, Ciel is the order. Fair enough? Tessera trembles, looking at the massive beast. Fight him alone? Eugene. It seems like you're quite hurt from rolling around in the labyrinth. If you don't think you can win, you can give up. Tessera clenches her fist, grabbing her torn shirt. Her eyes burn with determination. I won't give up. She steps forward, but Scion interrupts, looking frustrated. You aren't going to fight? Eugene. I'll fight after all of you are finished fighting. Scion. You think your turn will come? I'll be the one to defeat the boss monster. Eugene smirks, leaning in with a mischievous glint in his eye. If you beat the boss monster, I'll call you elder brother for the rest of my life. Don't forget those words.
Scion sits down on the stone floor to watch, analyzing the enemy while Desira prepares. Scion, internal monologue. Minotaurs, a monster that cannot be left out when speaking of the labyrinth. Now that I see it in person, it looks quite huge. It seems larger than the troll I met before. However, it's only big. Compared to the troll or ogre, it isn't as belligerent. It's a monster that I can hunt alone. Desira. Standing before the towering minotaur, the beast is colossal, its horns scraping the darkness above. Internal monologue. Although it may be difficult for Desira. Huge. To think that I have to take down this thing. She shakes off her fear, gripping her spear with both hands. Internal monologue. But that doesn't mean I can give up after coming this far. Desira. Yeah!
She charges forward at full speed. The Minotaur stomps its massive hoof, sending debris flying. Desira is nimble. She dodges the stomp, leaping into the air. She spins her body, using the momentum to thrust her spear directly at the monster's foot. Crash! Wham! She lands a direct hit, but the spear tip sparks against the beast's skin as if striking solid rock. It doesn't penetrate. Desira looks up in horror as the weapon bounces off harmlessly. Desira, internal monologue. The hide is so tough, the spear can't pierce it. The massive hand of the Minotaur descends, engulfing Desira completely. She gasps, dwarfed by the sheer size of the creature's grip. The beast lifts her effortlessly, its red eyes glowing in the darkness. Desira's face twists in pure terror as she realizes she is helpless. "I'm dead!" With a powerful swing of its arm, the Minotaur hurls her across the room. She screams as she flies through the air, helpless against the momentum. Wah! She crashes onto the stone floor, skidding violently until she comes to a stop at the feet of the others. Bruised and defeated, she lies there, unable to get up. Scion crosses his arms, looking down at the scene with a critical eye. Why did it end the fight by throwing her instead of attacking more? Eugene. Because that isn't a real monster. Eugene looks back at the creature, his expression calm and analytical. The moment she was in its hands, the victor was decided. Scion steps forward, drawing his sword with a confident smirk. Now it's my turn. He glances back at Eugene, his eyes sharp with arrogance. I will show you that the blood of the main family is on a different level than the blood of the collateral lines. Eugene watches him go, a wide, mocking grin spreading across his face. Seeing that expression, Scion grits his teeth, his annoyance spiking. Cocky bastard. Does he really think I can't beat that little cow? Scion plants his feet and focuses his energy. Blue mana begins to flare around his body, illuminating the dark chamber. Open your eyes and watch closely. The blue energy surges into his blade, coating the steel in a radiant, magical aura that extends the weapon's reach. Desira, still on the ground, watches with wide eyes. That's sword ki, a blade of mana that can cut through anything. She stares in disbelief, realizing the immense talent required for such a feat. To create sword ki, you need at least 10 years of mana training. Is the gap between us and the main family already this wide? Even Eugene nods slightly, acknowledging the skill. Oh ho, sword ki at that age. Not bad. Scion holds the glowing sword, feeling the power humming through his manes. I can't maintain sword ki for too long, but it's enough to slice apart a real monster. Suddenly, with a harmless popping sound, the blue aura vanishes completely. The sword returns to being a piece of dull steel. Huh? Scion stares at his blade, dumbfounded. He shakes it, but nothing happens. Huh? What's this? What's happening? In the back of Eugene's mind, the true nature of this test echoes, a memory of the family head speaking. I want to check the quality of all of you who inherited the Lionheart name, without the prejudice of the main line or collateral line.
A memory of a golden-haired mage explains the mechanism of the labyrinth. Is that so? This labyrinth is a mirage made by Loberian. He made it so that you can't use mana to attack in the center of the labyrinth. Eugene watches Scion struggle, knowing the trap that has been sprung. If you can't use mana to create sword ki, whether you are of the main line or the collateral line, you will fight on similar terms. Scion sweats nervously, gripping his handle tight. Why the hell is the sword key not working? I still have plenty of mana. Eugene calls out from the sidelines, his tone teasing. If you think you'll lose, just come back. Don't get beat around just because you're stubborn. Scion snaps, his pride refusing him to let back down. Don't make me laugh. He glares at the monster, replacing his confusion with fury. Do you think I can't beat this shitty monster just because I don't have sword ki? With a roar, Scion charges forward, a tiny figure running headlong toward the towering Minotaur with nothing but a steel sword and his own physical strength. Yeah!